In a world where ancient laws dictate fate, one man's accidental glimpse into a sacred secret binds him to a powerful alien woman. Now he must choose, join her in an unbreakable bond, or fight to the death. Trapped in a struggle between tradition and freedom, their fate is sealed by an ancient tree that speaks only the truth. Will love or war determine their future? Watch as a choice forges a new path, where nothing is as it seems, and everything is at stake. If you are new here, then please subscribe this channel and show thumbs up by liking the video. Now let's move to this wonderful story. The night air on Therea was warm and filled with quiet sounds. The leaves rustled gently, and distant insects sang soft rhythmic songs. Two large moons hovered in the sky, casting silver light across the jungle. Nilan Ray moved carefully through the dense brush, guided only by the soft glow of his scanner and the whispers of legend he'd heard before arriving. He was a scientist from Earth, part of a small exploration crew sent to study natural energy patterns across unknown planets. But this night he walked alone, chasing a mystery the locals only spoke of in hushed tones. The Lightborn Springs. Each step he took brought him deeper into the heart of the forest, where no paths existed. Vines wrapped around trees like ancient arms, and the smell of rich earth filled his lungs. Nilan wasn't afraid. Curiosity had always been his strongest trait, and tonight it pushed him forward. Finally, the scanner beeped steadily. He stepped through a cluster of thick ferns and stopped. Before him lay a pool of water glowing with soft blue and green light. It shimmered as if the stars themselves had melted and pooled in the earth. A soft mist curled up from the surface, moving like slow breath under moonlight. Nilan stared, stunned. He had never seen anything so peaceful, so alive. He crouched down, pulled out a small device, and held it just above the surface. The readings were unlike anything in their database. The water wasn't just glowing, it was pulsing with energy, living energy. He leaned closer, whispering to himself, trying to make sense of it. Then a sound cut through the stillness, a quiet splash. Nilan froze. His heart jumped into his throat. He turned toward the pool just as a figure rose from the center of it. The water slipped down her skin in shimmering trails. She was tall, graceful, her form glowing softly like the pool itself. Her long hair floated around her like threads of light, and markings ran along her arms, pulsing faintly with every movement. She was not human. Nilan stared, unable to move. The woman's eyes locked onto his, and he felt a wave of emotion crash over him, shock, anger, something ancient and wild. She was completely unclothed, her body as natural and unhidden as the stars above them. But what struck Nilan was not the exposure. It was the sense that he had seen something sacred, something forbidden. He tried to speak, to apologize, to explain that he hadn't meant to intrude, but his mouth stayed shut. Her gaze didn't break. Slowly she raised one hand, her fingers splayed. The air between them shimmered with invisible tension. Nilan felt something push into his mind, a sharp pressure, not painful but warning. Then she turned. In one graceful motion, she dove back into the water. A flash of light burst behind her, and she vanished, swallowed by the glowing pool. Silence fell again. Nilan stood in place, unable to believe what had just happened. His pulse still thundered in his ears. He took a shaky step forward and noticed something on the ground near the pool's edge. A small object lay half buried in the soft soil. It was a pendant, round, smooth, and glowing with the same soft blue light as the pool. He picked it up, carefully. It was warm in his hand. Alive. He whispered to himself. What just happened? He left the pool behind, walking slowly back through the trees. The jungle felt different now, more awake. Back at the base camp, the others were asleep in their shelters, unaware of what he had just experienced. Nilan sat alone in his tent, staring at the pendant. No matter where he placed it, it continued to glow. And every time he closed his eyes, he saw her again. Her expression, her presence, the storm in her gaze. Later that night, as the wind passed through the jungle leaves and the soft hum of creatures filled the air, the pendant flared. Light spilled across the floor of the tent. Nilan sat up quickly. The air shimmered. A shape began to form in front of him. It was her. She stepped out of the glow, now dressed in silver fabric that clung to her like light itself. Her breathing was sharp and her eyes burned like stars. Nilan raised his hands, unsure if she came in peace or anger. "I'm sorry," he said softly. "I didn't know anyone was there." She didn't answer. She walked toward him, her steps calm but sure. Nilan backed up until his shoulders hit the tent wall. She reached out and took the pendant from his hand, then closed his fingers around it again. "You saw," she said. Her voice was strange, musical, with a heavy accent. "You saw a sacred form?" Nilan nodded slowly. "Yes, but it was an accident." She leaned closer, her face inches from his. "No accident," she whispered. "You looked, now you choose, bond or blood." He blinked, not understanding. "What?" "Only lifemate may see," she said, her voice steady. "Now you are lifemate or enemy." Nilan's mind raced. "Wait, this is a misunderstanding. I'm human. I don't know your ways." Her expression didn't change. "Our law is older than your sky." The space between them buzzed with quiet power. Nilan felt it, not just threat but truth. She wasn't bluffing. "If I don't choose?" he asked. She stood tall. Her presence filled the space. "Then we fight," she said. "To death." And just like that she turned and vanished again into the light. Nilan sat alone in the dark, heart racing, the pendant still glowing in his palm. Morning arrived slowly on the planet Therea. Pale sunlight filtered through the jungle canopy, casting shifting patterns of gold and green. Nilan Ray sat near the edge of his camp, the strange glowing pendant resting in his hand. Sleep had not come to him that night. His mind was filled with thoughts of the woman from the pool, her face, her voice, and the warning she had given. Bond or blood. The words repeated in his mind like an echo he couldn't quiet. He had only wanted to study a natural spring. Now he had broken a law he didn't understand in a world he barely knew. As the others in his science team prepared equipment for the day, Nilan quietly slipped away. He walked back through the trees, his steps guided by memory and instinct. The jungle seemed to watch him this time. Every leaf, every whisper of wind felt more aware. When he reached the pool again, it was just as he had left it. Calm, glowing softly as if holding a secret. Before he could step closer, a beam of light shot from the pendant, surrounding him in a warm circle. The world around him began to dissolve, into mist. He tried to move, but his feet stayed locked in place. Then, in a blink, everything changed. He found himself standing on smooth crystal ground, inside a massive open space. Above him, a dome of light shimmered with moving patterns. Tall figures stood in silence around the room. Their skin glowed in shades of blue and silver, their eyes sharp and still. This was not just another part of the jungle, it was a place of power. At the far end stood the woman, Siora Nal. She was dressed in formal robes now, flowing and bright, her long hair braided and tied with silver bands. Her presence was even stronger than before, and her gaze found him instantly. "You came," she said. "I didn't have much choice," Nilan replied, his voice quiet. "None of us do," she answered, her words heavier than before. She stepped forward, and the others made space for her. A tall man with a crown of crystal approached. His robe was heavier than the others, lined with markings that shimmered in the light. He looked older, though still strong, and when he spoke, the room fell silent. "You are human," he said. "You saw what must never be seen by one unbound. The sacred form. The rule is known. The law must be followed." Nilan looked around, at the others. Their expressions gave nothing away. He felt small among them, unsure if he was being judged or simply observed. I didn't know, he said. It was an accident. The older man shook his head. The law does not ask what you meant. It only knows what happened. And now there are two paths before you. Neelan already knew what was coming. Still, hearing it aloud made his stomach tighten. You may choose the union, the man said. The joining of soul to soul, a bond deeper than any promise, lifelong, without escape. Or, he paused, his eyes steady. You may challenge the right in combat. A trial of balance. No mercy. No second chance. Siora stepped closer. Her voice was calm, but her eyes shimmered with something Neelan couldn't name. You must choose before the moons meet again. One night. Neelan looked at her carefully. There was strength in her, yes, but also pain. She was not doing this to trap him. She was caught in the law, same as him. Why is it like this? He asked. Why such a heavy rule for something so small? She looked away. Because long ago someone broke a bond. It tore our people apart. Since then, the sacred form is only for the chosen. The one who sees it must either take the path or be taken down. He nodded slowly. It was a system built on fear, not forgiveness. On control, not choice. Later that evening, Neelan was taken to a quiet chamber. It was unlike anything he had seen. The walls were made of soft stone that glowed faintly, and a view of the city stretched far into the horizon. Floating platforms drifted in the air outside, carrying people from one tower to another. Everything here seemed to move with grace and silence. A soft knock came at the door. A girl stepped in, younger than Siora, with short hair and a playful smile. You're the outsider who saw my cousin, she said. Neelan blinked. You're her family? I'm Taeyeon, she said, and I think all this is a little too old for its own good. Then why are they doing this? He asked. Taeyeon sighed. Because the law keeps the peace, or so they say. But peace built on fear is only quiet, not harmony. She handed him a small tablet. This has the full story of the bond right, the real one, not the version they tell in court. You should read it, understand it, before you decide. Then she left him alone again. Neelan sat near the window, watching the twin moons rise together in the sky. He turned on the tablet, and symbols floated into the air, slowly forming words. It told of a time when love was not forced by rules but chosen, when bonds were made with trust, not threat. But one betrayal had changed it all. Now the law was iron. He read long into the night, the pendant still glowing beside him. By morning, he had made his choice. The sky over Therea had turned a deep orange by the time Neelan Ray stood at the edge of the arena. The floating city below shimmered with light, and the sound of quiet drums echoed through the air. Twin moons hung overhead, their glow casting a silver-blue light across the stone platform. Around him, high above in the circular stands, thousands of Siora's people watched in silence. Their faces were unreadable, no cheers, no shouts, just waiting. Neelan's body felt heavier than usual. The ceremonial armor they had given him was made of smooth black material laced with glowing lines. It was light, but the weight of the moment pressed on his shoulders. He had trained for this, if training meant dodging a hologram and being knocked to the ground 100 times. But this wasn't about skill. It was about choice, about honor, and maybe something deeper. Across the wide circle stood Siora. She looked nothing like the woman he had seen in the glowing pool. Tonight she wore battle robes shaped to her body like a second skin, with threads of crystal woven through the fabric. In her hand she held a long staff made of dark metal curved at both ends. Her hair was tied back and her eyes met his without hesitation. She didn't blink. She didn't smile. She looked like someone who had accepted her fate long ago. The elder who had spoken the day before stepped between them and raised his hands. His voice, though calm, carried through the entire space. The rite of balance begins. One has seen what must not be seen. One must answer. Do you both accept the terms? I do, Siora said first. Nilan hesitated for just a second. Then he nodded. I do. The elder stepped back. A deep bell rang, and the silence broke. Siora moved first. She came forward quickly, her staff spinning with controlled speed. Nilan raised his arms, barely dodging the first blow. The second hit him across the side, sending him stumbling. His armor absorbed most of the force, but it still hurt. He caught his breath and turned to face her again. She didn't pause. Another swing came at him, and he blocked it just in time. Their weapons clashed, sparks flying. Each step she took was fast, measured, sharp. But there was something in her movement, something different from pure anger. She wasn't trying to destroy him. She was testing him. Nilan fought back, not with aggression, but with care. He dodged more than he struck. He stayed on his feet, stayed aware. He wasn't trying to win. He was trying to understand her. As the minutes passed, the rhythm of their fight shifted. They circled each other slowly now, not like enemies, but like two people trying to speak without words. Suddenly, Nilan dropped his weapon. The crowd gasped, a ripple of sound moving through the arena like wind through tall grass. He raised his hands and spoke loud enough for all to hear. I don't want to fight you, he said. I want to understand you. Siora froze. Her blade was inches from his chest. Her breathing was quick, and her eyes burned with surprise. She didn't lower her staff. Not yet. But she didn't strike either. Then prove it, she said quietly. Disarm me. Nilan picked up his staff again, slowly. They circled each other once more, but this time there was no anger, no fear. It was like a dance, fast, focused, with every step drawing them closer. Then Nilan saw an opening. He moved in, turned his wrist just right, and knocked her staff from her hands. It hit the ground with a soft clink. Siora looked down at it, then up at him. Slowly, she dropped to one knee. You passed, she whispered. But before Nilan could reply, a deep voice rang out from the stands. This duel is void. A tall man in red stepped onto the arena floor. His armor was heavy, marked with high-ranking symbols. His voice was full of power and fury. She was already promised by decree. This trial means nothing. Guards began to move in. The crowd stirred. Siora's face turned pale. They tricked me, she said. I was bonded by law long ago. If I join with you now, it breaks the order. Nilan turned to her, stunned. Then what happens now? They'll take you, lock you away, she said, and I'll be forced to complete the bond with someone I never chose. Guards surrounded Nilan. He raised his hands, confused. I didn't ask for any of this. Siora looked into his eyes one last time. There was no fury now, only sadness. That night, Nilan was taken to a cold chamber beneath the city. The walls were black stone, smooth and quiet. He sat on a low bench alone, thinking of how quickly everything had changed. He had stepped into a pool of light. He had seen a woman, and now he was part of a war he didn't even understand. Then the door to his cell slid open. Siora stepped inside, her cloak dark, her face hidden by a hood. She said nothing at first, just stood in front of him, breathing quietly. What are you doing here? He asked. Breaking the rules, she replied softly. He stood. They'll punish you. They already did, she said. He saw something in her eyes, something fierce, and also afraid. She held up a small crystal. This is the bond contract, she said, the one tying me to him. Then break it, Nilan said. I can't, she whispered. Not alone. Nilan stepped closer. You're not alone anymore. Siora looked at him, truly looked, and then nodded once. Come with me, she said. There's something you need to see. And together, they slipped into the shadows. The forest beyond the city was unlike anything Nilan Ray had ever seen. Tall trees with glowing leaves stretched high into the sky, their roots thick and wide, crawling over the ground like sleeping giants. The light here was softer, warmer, and the air seemed alive, filled with quiet energy. He followed Siora Nall closely as they moved through the thick woods, stepping carefully between the twisting vines and moss-covered stones. Neither of them spoke. The only sounds were their footsteps and the distant hum of the forest. They had escaped through hidden tunnels beneath the city. Siora had known the old paths, passageways carved during past wars and now long forgotten by most. They had moved quickly, past locked gates and ancient stone doors. When they finally reached the forest edge, the world felt different. Free as a... They walked deeper into the woods. Strange shapes appeared among the trees. Other people. Silent watchers dressed in natural armor made of bark and stone, with eyes that glowed faintly in the dim light. They didn't speak, but they didn't stop them either. Siora whispered, "They're the forgotten ones, the ones who left the cities long ago. They follow the old ways, the ways before the law." At last they reached a clearing. In the center stood a massive tree, unlike any other. Its trunk was wider than a house, its bark shone with a silver light, and its leaves moved gently even, though there was no wind. The roots pulsed with slow light as if the tree were breathing. Nilan felt something stir in his chest, something deep and quiet, like being seen for the first time. A figure stepped out from the shadows. She was older than Siora, her hair silver, her face marked with lines that told of many years lived. She wore no crown, no armor, just a simple robe woven from vines and crystals. Her eyes held power, but not the kind Nilan had seen in the city. This was different. Wiser. Older. "You carry the bond," the woman said, her voice low and steady. "But not by force. You wish to prove it." Nilan nodded. "I want to understand it." The woman turned to Siora. "And you?" Siora stepped forward, her voice firm. "I want to be free of the chains they placed on me. I want to choose." The woman nodded slowly. "Then the tree must see your spirits. It will not listen to words. Only truth." She raised one hand, and the roots of the tree shifted. A path opened beneath the earth lit by golden light. Siora took Nilan's hand. "Together," she said. They stepped into the hollow and the light swallowed them whole. Inside there were no walls, no ceiling. Just space, filled with warmth and color. The ground beneath their feet felt like mist, yet held their weight. As they stood, the light wrapped around them, lifting them into the air. Nilan tried to speak, but no sound came. He reached for Siora's hand, but his fingers passed through her like smoke. Then the visions began. Nilan saw Siora's life through her own eyes. A young girl, quiet and strong, sitting in a grand hall while voices argued above her. She had no say, only orders. Promises made for her. A life planned without her choosing. He saw her hiding in gardens alone with her thoughts, her fear, her longing for freedom. And then, the moment she stood in the sacred pool thinking she was alone, until he saw her. The pain of it made Nilan's chest ache. Then the light shifted, and she saw his life. Long days of study, lonely nights in quiet labs. His first steps, on strange planets. The joy of discovery and the ache of being far from home. The feeling of being small in a vast universe and still hoping to belong. She saw him reach for understanding, not power. Wonder, not control. Slowly, the light pulled them back together. They stood facing each other, their hands no longer passing through but touching gently. "I know you now," Nilan said, barely above a whisper. "I see you," Siora replied, deep voice, not from the tree but within it, spoke one word. "Bound." The light faded. They stood together once more, the soft ground beneath their feet, the roots of the tree closing behind them. When they stepped out into the clearing, the old woman was waiting. She looked at them, eyes sharp, then gave a slow nod. "The bond is true," she said, "not from sight but from soul. No law can break what this tree has sealed." But the peace didn't last. A scout rushed from the trees, his breathing fast. "Ships are coming," he said, "from the city. They tracked the light. Siora's face hardened. They've come to take us back. The old woman turned to the trees. Then let them come. From the shadows, more figures emerged, warriors of the forest. Their blades glowed with soft energy and their bodies moved with silent strength. They were not soldiers. They were protectors, defenders of choice. Siora turned to Neelan. They'll try to erase everything. Us, the bond, the truth. Neelan reached for her hand. Then we don't let them. As the sky darkened and the sound of engines filled the air, they stood side by side beneath the ancient tree, ready to protect the bond they had chosen. And somewhere above, the moons watched, quietly, as if waiting for a new story to begin.